We should learn from our relatively recent history, my brother. That's where I'm coming from. I say our powerful people.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media. Chuck Ocelli.
You're here for way too short of a time to always take yourself all too seriously. This is the second hour of the Ocelli Effect, and it is a Monday. We are continuing our series with Jordan Maxwell, who I do take seriously. I don't take myself very seriously, but Jordan Maxwell I take very seriously, and I'm extremely grateful to have him on for this series of discussions that we've had related to religion, not related to, actually focused on religion. We some other related topics have come up. Of course, you guys can enter questions into the conversation as we go through my Skype. Charles.Ocelli is my Skype. And if not there, you can go to the live chat room at Ocelli.com and you can put your questions in there. I will enter them into the discussion. Meanwhile, if you want to get deeper into this subject and many others, you go to JordanMaxwellShow.com. Altogether, JordanMaxwellShow.com. It is the only website that is Jordan Maxwell's. You can make a donation there. You can join the Research Society there and get way deeper into these topics and many others. You can also go there and purchase on-demand videos, things like that. And hey, while you're there, you can always email Jordan. He's always happy to receive correspondence, your thoughts on the shows, whatever, this kind of thing. Of course, as I said, everything helps when it comes to donations and things. I'm at a point this month where I could use some myself, but Jordan is always in that kind of condition because I got to tell you something. Telling the truth just doesn't pay that well. So it's that simple. Anyway, JordanMaxwellShow.com. That's your starting point. It's the only website that is Jordan's, and that's where you go to get access to all of that. The Research Society button is there, and the links and clickable goodies are all over the website, so you can email Jordan, donate, check out, previous shows. Not sure if my shows are up there on the site or not, but I do know that there's other shows that Jordan has done with other people on there that are accessible right away, and a whole lot more stuff is accessible when you join the Research Society. So, all of that out of the way, I'd like to continue on with the discussion, Jordan. And, when we took the break, we were talking about this exponential, in the movie The Matrix, right? Agent Smith turns around and says to Neo, you're actually more like a virus with the way you're spreading around the world. You're not really carnivores. You're not really, you're not really mammals. You're more like a virus. And Jordan was talking about this exponential spreading of humanity, but it's not that the reproduction or procreation is a negative, and it's not like religion is a negative. Let's clear that up one more time.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. It's not a negative.
Yeah.
It can be made into a negative if you're ignorant, ill-informed, and unread.
See, that's what the trouble is. When you allow people to put a facade over something, right, and present, kind of beat you with a stick, but it's a padded stick. It's still a stick. You just don't know what the stick is made of. Okay.
That's right.
And, it's really, really rough to deal with this and to kind of deprogram what you've always been taught. I often wind up referring back to things that I always was sort of taught to be the ground level of truth. And the fact is that the generations that came before me didn't really know any better than me, so you gotta actually dig deeper to get at it, because nobody's gonna hand it to you easily, are they, Jordan?
No, and besides, people don't realize that what they're reading in their holy books, the Bible and the Quran and the Torah and the book of the law and all of that, they don't realize that these are stories that have been around for thousands of years in other cultures. They just were told in a different way. In a classic example, when you read in the Bible about Moses, and Moses, when he was leading the people in the desert, He didn't know where he was going, and so he was out there for 40 years. Well, that's very suspect anyway, because 40 shows up in the Bible, Old Testament, all the time. 40 this, 40 that. And so Moses is out in the wilderness for 40 years, and the Israelites are following him because he don't know where he's going. He's in the wilderness. And so, but there's no way for him to order food for everybody, but you better find some food for everybody, because you got a lot of people out there, thousands if not millions of people following you, and they're in the desert, and they're in the lost desert too with you, and you're the one that brought them out there because you told them God was going to take care of them. Well, where is he? And we're hungry, right? And so then we see that in the Bible that Moses talks to God and tells him, God, you have to do something for me here, and it's something important. Can you do something to help feed my people here, because we don't have nothing. We're out in the middle of a desert and we don't even know where we are. Can you do something to feed us? Because if not, we're going to die. And so we may be God's chosen people, but we're not going to be here much longer because we're not eating. And then it says, God says to Moses, oh, okay, I'll feed you. I'll tell everybody to settle down, and I will feed you. What I'll do is I will give you something that is called the manna from heaven. And so the manna from heaven the scripture says, the people would wake up in the morning and they would have something called the manna from heaven. And they would go out and gather up this manna from heaven and eat it. And at least they had breakfast and they had lunch and dinner based on this manna from heaven. Well, the very word manna, we've heard this story about the manna from heaven, and the Jews are out and the Hebrews, or whoever they are, the Hebrews or the Jewish, they are out there in Israel. They're out there picking up the manna from heaven. Well, first of all, the word manna simply means, in the old ancient Phoenician language, which we call Hebrew, it's actually a Phoenician language, and manna in the old Phoenician language simply means, what is it? They don't even know what it is. They're just out there eating something, and it's good. They're eating it, but they don't know what it is. They have no idea how it got there. But thank God, at least it's something to eat. And so they call that manna, which means, what is it? And so then you find out. You go back into the history, and go back to the Jewish Encyclopedia Judaica, and the Jewish reference works on the Jewish religion. And then you look at the what they call archaeolinguistics, which is the study of the ancient languages of the world and how they're all connected behind the scenes. And when you hit archaeolinguistics and you ask, what does archaeolinguistics, the study of ancient languages, tell you about the word manna? Because obviously in the Bible, the Hebrews didn't know what it was. That's why they called it manna. And then you find out in the reference books on the word, manna from heaven was mushrooms. They were eating mushrooms, the magic mushrooms. Well, no wonder they were talking to God. Now, hell, if you're out there eating the magic mushrooms, you're going to be talking to God. You're going to have all kinds of wonderful experiences communicating with your God on mushrooms. And so manna from heaven is described in the Bible. Go to the Bible and read in Genesis read in the Old Testament about manna from heaven. Look it up in the Bible where the scriptures are talking about the manna from heaven, and it will tell you in the reference works, manna from heaven were mushrooms. And they were called the magic mushrooms, and magic mushrooms have been around the Middle East by God for thousands of years. But it actually says they were small, round things that grew in the morning dew. So when you get up in the morning, there will be these fluffy, round things that you could pick and eat, and they were called mushrooms. And so now today, there are quite a few articles being written in Israel by Israeli professors and people who study the Israeli history of words, etc., in the Hebrew. And there are many articles being written now. You go on the web and just look up Israel and mushrooms and see all the different articles written by professors and teachers and writers and researchers in Israel, saying that, the people supposedly at that time that Moses would have been alive, they were on mushrooms. And that's why, they were seeing and able to talk to God directly. Well, if you take enough mushrooms, you're going to talk to God. And so, but it's not mushrooms just for, like you would get with a hamburger. No, these were magic mushrooms. What is it? Amanita muscara is probably one of the most famous mushrooms in the world, is Amanita muscara, and that's a one incredible trip, boy. You take a little bit of the mushroom of the Amanita muscara and watch what happens to your brain. Watch what happens to your mind when your mind starts reacting to the chemicals in that mushroom. You're going to see things you are not going to believe. And you're going to have experiences, boy.
I'm acutely aware of this, Jordan. I've sampled that one. I've sampled psilocybin. I have also sat down with people that used to be called Indians. At the time I sat down with them, but now they call them Native Americans. Quite honestly, and had peyote. So, guess what? I know exactly what you're saying. And look, I do not deny the legitimacy of those experiences or tell you that it's not something that doesn't irrevocably alter your state, because it does. Now, what's interesting to me is that, according to what they describe as ancient witches' script, mana, M-A-N-A, would be the pronunciation of energy from the land, and its physical manifestation is mushrooms. Yeah. So, not everybody is lying to you. Just so you guys know this. It's interesting stuff when you take a look at it. When you look at the confluence of the ancient languages, that is one interesting point as well.
It's called archaeolinguistics, the ancient languages of the world.
Right. But all of them together, you start to line them up, they do start to make sense as to how, things came together. I have an interesting question here, and it's actually a little bit off topic, but I did say if it's relevant, we'll bring it up, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So this person is asking, what is, let me just get their exact question. Okay, can you ask Jordan why Satanism as a religion is so popular? With the highest levels of world leaders, excuse me. Before Jordan answers that, let me just explain something though. What some people call Satanism is not Satanism. So I don't know if you mean the religion by which you basically are your own God, or if you mean the actual worship of the character of Satan, because both things exist. So that would be what I would say if I were answering the question. Now, Jordan might have a different view and might want to answer it differently. Go ahead, though.
Well, I would say that you're right, that there are different interpretations of what we would call Satanism. There are different interpretations, and you outlined it, and you're right. But there does seem to be a general overall direction in which the human family is slowly but surely becoming involved with, and that is otherworld entities and demonism and devil worship. But over that, there does seem, as I said, to be some kind of a direction that the human family on the earth is now being directed into, with all kinds of rituals and blood sacrifices and killing children, and that stuff is real. And so many of the so-called elites are involved with all kinds of child sacrifices and pornography and narcotics and drug addiction. And very slowly but surely, it's beginning to circulate around the world now. So now we're finding out that, the pedophilia stuff in religion. It's everywhere. It's in government. It's in the industrial field. It's in military. It's in churches and religions and all kinds of religious orders around the world. And there's all kinds of, in Islam, we said before, that they have child marriages and child sacrifice. And so it seems to be that people are being, because they grow up, they're born, they have no grounding whatsoever. People are being born today that have no grounding. They are shallow in that they have no background in education or morals or ethics or scruples or in humanity. They don't know anything about humanity and where we've come from. All they know is they're born and they got to eat and they got to live, and so they're out chasing sex and drugs, alcohol, and God knows what else, and going to their cage fighting and their martial art fighting and boxing, and they get involved with the dark side of the world, with fights and sex and drugs and rock and roll and all the rest of it, until there seems to be a general direction now that the human family is now slowly but surely drifting into, that they're not really realizing. It's just people are experiencing something they like, and they like watching the fights, they like watching the ball games, they like this and they like that, and they're having a cold beer while they're watching it. And so they don't realize that slowly but surely they are giving up their humanity and supporting something that's going on the earth today that is frightening, because if you look where we've come from and where we are now, it doesn't take a scientist to figure out where we're going. Right. Because the people today, generally speaking, in America especially, are not grounded. There's a term that's used in electricity. People are not grounded. When I was coming up as a child, I had my family explain to me about morals and ethics and rules of life and how to treat other people and what to do and what not to do and what is acceptable when you're playing with other kids and what is not acceptable. And if you do something wrong, you apologize for it and you don't do it ever again, and you apologize. And you don't do this and you don't do that. But here's what you do. If you want to be a normal and good person, here are the things you have to do. You have to take care of the older people and look after children and animals, and the way you treat an animal tells us about how you're going to treat the rest of the world. If you treat an innocent animal, we're watching you. We know what you're thinking. We know that you're brutal. And so I was well grounded by my mom and by the people around me that taught me how to think and how to question and how to live and how not to live, etc., and got me thinking about spiritual subjects. And then I began hearing teachers and other people that I gravitated toward who were talking about wonderful, strange, and incredible subjects about the strangeness of living in the world and all the strange things that have happened in our universe and happening on our earth that we don't have any answer for. And that's why that book I've told you about before, and you should get it. You could get it in any good bookstore today. You can still order it on Amazon. And if you go on my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, on the same line that you see my Research Society button that you can join, move your eyes over to the right and you will see a little button that says Recommended Materials. Right. And so go on Recommended Materials, and one of the books right off the bat is called The Complete Works of Charles Fort, F-O-R-T. The Complete Works of Charles Fort. You can still buy it on Amazon or go to the bookstore and they have it, but it is a huge, thick book based on all of the stories that have appeared in newspapers and magazines and articles around the world of things which have happened on this earth in which there is no explanation for whatsoever, period. Things which have happened that nobody knows why they happened. Nobody can explain it. And since science cannot explain it, they don't even look at it. Why? Because if they looked at it, they'd have to explain it, because they're the most brilliant people on the earth as scientists, which in point of fact, they don't know, period. They don't know what is going on. They have no idea in the world. All they know is that science is a religion. It's a religion that has their holy books and their holy altars, and they have their holy people, their great prophets and holy prophets in science. And so they don't need to know anything. All they need to do is keep your mouth shut. And if you want to get a job, then you got to get a degree. So you get Caesar to stamp your paper, and you've got a degree now. Now you could go out and get a job, and just keep your mouth shut if you're thinking too much. And so the bottom line is that people are not aware of how this world works. So therefore, the Bible says, God said, my people are dying from a lack of knowledge.
Well, and all of this is so interesting because, you know, one of my most recent sort of thoughts, probably one you had years ago, but as I'm looking at these people that are developing artificial intelligence, now somebody's going to say, why is he bringing that up? All right, well, here's why, because we just talked about Satanism, and we just talked about what it is that, you know, people should know is acceptable behavior and what is not. Okay.
Yep.
I find it extremely, even more insidious than all of the ugly things we know about on the planet in the future. It feels like this concept will become more insidious. Now, why do I say it? Because I'm just afraid of technology? Not at all. When I look at the statements from people who are developing this, Jordan, they literally state, excuse me, by the way, they literally state that they're basically atheists. And look, I have no problem if you want to believe that you are your own God, if you want to believe that, you know, this whole existence is just a thing made up in your head, and that's fine. I think people should be free to observe the world and interpret it any way they choose. But when I see these guys talking about, look, we're atheists, you know why I don't believe in God? Because I haven't created it yet. This is a frightening notion in my mind. And I can't really articulate why, but I can tell you that it sounds like the absolute most purely satanic idea in the world. To lose something that is exponentially more intelligent, can act quicker, can literally exploit any weakness on, you know, mass populations in the less than the blink of an eye. This idea to me is so frightening, and the fact that these people are aware that they're creating something that would be akin to God. They don't believe there's a God now, but we're making one. That is almost the essence of what people should be afraid of with this, you know, when it comes to, and I don't believe in fear, by the way. It's just a matter of, this is caution.
You should be aware of it. Yeah, you should be aware.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? The sort of spiritual implications of that. I mean, is that literally like somebody ritualistically trying to use the religion of science to invoke the demon?
It's really frightening, because what in fact is happening is that we are being stripped slowly but surely over a period of time, but we're being slowly but surely according to a method. There is an actual scientific method. That's why when you want to study world politics, it's called political science. It's not politics ideas, no, political science, because there is an actual provable science to the control of human beings and the control of people. And so this is why I said we as the human family on the earth are slowly but surely losing our humanity. We're losing our respect for the other world of knowledge and wisdom that has come down to us, and now is almost totally dead in human society. All we're doing is playing our football games on our computers and playing games and talking to each other on the telephone. There's no real interaction, and that's why, people getting married, they need to go back and start thinking about, you're getting married. Do you know how to converse with the opposite sex? Do you know how to treat other people? If you're a man, do you know how to treat a woman and a child? Are you aware of how the woman thinks and her feelings? No. Well, then you're not gonna be with a woman very long. You're gonna find out that you thought you understood everything and you didn't understand. This was a woman you were marrying, and they don't always think like you. And if you don't have respect for that, then you're not going to stay married very long. Well, same thing for women. Women have their own views on things, whether you know the way the man thinks. So you have to show respect for the male and the man. And so I'm just saying people don't show respect for each other. Why? Because they've never been trained to. They've never had any grounding. They've never had anyone teach them how to think. So they just grow up like any other animal in the street. And that's why the masters who run this planet, they call all of us, we the people on the street, they call us chattel. Look that word up in a dictionary. It's spelled C-H-A-T-T, chattel. Not cattle, like a bull, but chattel. And chattel simply means human cattle. And so the difference between cattle and humans is that humans are called chattel, and cows are called cattle. And so this is why today we are on your identification, your driver's license and everything else, ID, you are either male or female. Why? Because if you went back to the United States printing office and got the book ordered from the government printing office called the Styles magazine, or the Styles book, printed by the U.S. printing office, Styles magazine is a large magazine with words, all the words that are used in government, used in courts, used in business, and what those words mean in government, not what they mean on the street. You got your own idea about what the word means on the street. Right. But if you want to know before you go into court and before you get involved in business, get the Styles magazine, and it will show you all the words that are used in courts and in government and what they mean in the court, not what they mean on the street that you think. And so then you find out in the Styles magazine, it says if you are a man or a woman, you have to be royalty to be a man or a woman. Right. Only royalty, only the wealthy and the royalty are considered by law to be a man or a woman. But the people, the common people of the world, are referred to as animals. They're called chattel. C-H-A-T-T-L. Chattel. And chattel means cattle. So that's why if your daughter's getting married and the young man comes from a wealthy family, you say, well, she's getting married, but the boy she's marrying he's of good stock. He's of good stock. What, is she marrying a cow? No, but he's of good stock, meaning he's chattel, but they got money, so they are they're better off than we are. So we're just the common folks. Right. But he's from good stock. So you need to understand, all of your identification is in male or female. Why? Because male and female, according to Styles magazine, published by the government, says if you're male or female, you're an animal.
Well, and there's slightly different values attributed to male and female animals depending on what they are. For instance, a breeding bull is very, very expensive, a good breeding bull. But then again, certain types of female cows that are out there that produce a lot of milk, those are very expensive, right?
That's right.
Some types of cows don't necessarily do the same thing. Not every bull is a great breeding bull. See, there's your good stock versus right the rest. Now we got a couple of questions that came in, and so I want to enter them in here before we run out of time.
One other thing I want to say is that's why you are on the stock market.
Exactly,
because that's all you are is cattle. You're on the stock market.
And
go on. What were you saying?
Yeah, believe it or not, if you find out about your, Social Security, your government serial number, you can find out that there's actually a stock market value to that. But anyway, another thing you can study in the Research Society at JordanMaxwellShow.com. All right. So here's the two questions. Let's we got another Satanism question, and we have one on recent events. I'll go with the recent events question first. Because of the increase in bad weather, earthquakes, tsunamis, I'm not sure what this word is, but I'm guessing this is all natural disasters. Because of the increases of natural disasters and floods and things like this, does it appear as though this is part of the biblical text, or is this simply mankind wrecking the planet?
This is mankind wrecking the planet. This is called weather modification. Mm-hmm. That's a whole story that most people have never heard. I've sat and talked with the scientists and physicists that work for the U.S. government and NASA, and in private conversations, I've sat and talked with them about what is going on with the weather of this world. And they tell me that there's something called ELF, extreme low frequency, ELF. And I could quickly just tell you that off the coast of the United States in Alaska, off the coast of Alaska going eastward toward Russia, there's a series of islands called the Aleutian Islands off the coast of Alaska. And on that last little island on the American side, there's also a series of little islands off the coast of Russia in the same area. And they have little islands going toward America. And on the last island, I am told, on the last island on the Russian side is Russia has put a gigantic atomic power plant on that little island that's closest to America. That little island has a big power plant, a nuclear power plant. And why? Well, because they've got a station, some kind of an electrical radio or some kind of a station out there, but it uses so much electricity they have to generate their own nuclear power to even run this station on that little island. And what it is on that station, we now know that there are like two large discs, those discs that we see in Goldstone, Arizona, and that kind of thing. Well, these are two large discs, and one of them, they're like plates, big ones, and so they're connected to a computer. And so if Russia wants to cause trouble somewhere, they want to cause any kind of terrible weather, they direct one of those discs, put it into the computer, and then they put it the same thing into the other computer, and the other disc turns the opposite way. One is going northward and one's going eastward. And now when they jack up the power and they're sending out an electrical signal, which is extremely powerful, because they have to have a nuclear plant to just pump the electricity into this thing. One of those discs are sending out a powerful electrical signal north, going around the world. It will go around the earth and come right back where it's, because it's going in one straight line. But the other one that's pointing east or west, it has to be east or west. That one sends out a signal, and it goes around the world and comes back. But where the two signals cross is in the computer, and wherever it crosses, now once they cross, it's now called ELF, extreme low frequency. Now you can manipulate the power going into both of those lines of power going around the world, and they connect somewhere on the earth, on the other side of the earth. And so where they connect, you can now cause a volcano to erupt. You can cause an earthquake. You can cause hurricanes or tornadoes. And depending on how much power you pump into it and where you are designing that cross point with the two things that are going to cross on the other side of the world, you figure out where it is and what the weather's like, and now you can cause the rains to come and flood, or if it's a rainy area and a jungle, you can cause no rain to fall at all, period, and you go for droughts. And so it's called ELF, and it's a fascinating story about how Russia controls the weather. Well, we know we're doing the same thing. We call it HARP, and we've got ELF frequencies also. We're using it militarily, just like Russians are. But the bottom line is, to the answer to the question, yes, we are causing most of these terrible things that are happening on the earth. That's between Russia and us. We're hurting them, they're hurting us, and we hurt their friends, and they hurt our friends, and we cause earthquakes and volcanoes. Well, they're doing the same thing. And so all of these things we're seeing happening, yeah, we are causing, we humans. We're great at science. We love science. We don't care about life. So it's called ELF. Yeah. Go back and just research ELF. Extreme low frequency.
And it's basically weather warfare between whoever and whoever. I mean, it really is irrelevant when it's being done on such a mass scale who's doing it. It's just the fact that it is human driven. Okay. So there's the answer to that question. Hopefully that works for you. Now, the other one is again about Satanism. Now this is I'm just going to read it as written. Is Satanism compatible / interconnected with Nazism and or communism, since the world appears to have been using those three belief systems to land us in so much trouble? ? That's exactly the way it's written, Jordan.
Yeah, and I think there is something to that no matter what kind of Satanism you are looking at, no matter what school of thought you're dealing with something which you're dealing with something that you don't have any control over, and that's why I tell people don't deal with spiritual subjects where you actually contact the spirits, like with an Ouija board. That's the one thing I would stay as far away from as you can possibly get as an Ouija board, because what you're doing is you are actually, in point of fact, communicating with the spirit world, and it does work. And you can bet it works. And it's called an Ouija board, and you ask it questions and it will answer you. And it's an intelligent answer, so you know you're connecting with something on the other side. Well, I think you have to be out of your mind to do anything like that, because it's obviously intelligent, it's not of this world, and you're talking to it. Well, you don't know what you're talking to. Parents tell their children, don't go talking to strangers, and watch out with the people around you and strangers around you. Why? Because you don't know what they're like and who they really are. Well, the same thing, a Ouija board, and with humans dealing with spiritism, spirit subjects like demonism, devil worship, child sacrifice, or devil worship. There is a world of spiritual presence on this earth that we humans are not aware of. Churches talk about demons and devil worship and spirits and poltergeists and ghosts and sons of God and and the Islamic people talk about jinns, which are spiritual entities, demons and devils, or spirits, angels. Of course, we have good and bad angels. Yeah, well, I don't know the difference, so I don't want to deal with any angel because I don't know the difference.
Well, but the truth about all of this, Jordan, in reality, though, is that most of the people that spend a lot of time speaking about this know absolutely nothing about what they're speaking about. I mean, literally, correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear these guys from the pulpit talking about, there's a devil that makes you want to do this, and there's, a great spirit that makes you want to. These people have no clue about the fact that there are entities who don't care about any of, your little trials and tribulations in life. Now, they may wish to consume life, but to them, you're nothing but food. Okay?
Of course.
There's all sorts of orders of different things that are out there. And just like with the Ouija board, I mean, it's a toy. It's more famously a toy, but the thing is that people make these broad sweeping statements about things that they have no knowledge of, no experience with, and absolutely no connection to. They're telling you their ideas, and actually, they're not even their ideas. They are just the manipulated, mangled version of what it is they were told to say. And that's what kills me. I mean, but again, Jordan, maybe I'm wrong. Tell me. Am I wrong?
No, this is exactly right. They went to college. If you're going to be a minister, you're going to be a minister in a church, you've got to get a degree. So you've got to go to a Christian university.
Get a degree in theology.
And they're going to ask you all the questions, and you've got to answer the questions. And if you get an A, and so it's like anything else. You go to school, and you will learn what they tell you to learn, and you will recite what they tell you to recite. And if you're a good boy and you learn what the teacher wants you to say and what the book tells you to think and say, then we'll get an A, and that way when you go up, you can go to college now, and they will give you a degree, and you can get a good job. Why? Because you now know what to kiss and when and what to say, and how to view things correctly, the way the boss wants you to think. And so if you're like me, you grow up as a child deciding, I don't want to hear anything from any expert. I want to look at it myself. I'm not stupid. I want to read it myself, and I start asking questions about things that most adults have never even thought of. And so that's been my life. Ask questions about things that most adults don't even know exist. And then the more I looked at religion, because that was my favorite subject as a child, and still my favorite subject today, theology and religion. I'm not anti-God. I'm not anti-religious. But what I am is I'm trying to tell you that what you're believing today is based on things that you don't even know exist. They're based on ideas that existed in the ancient Egyptian world that today you believe as part of your religious belief, and you have no idea in the world where that belief came from and what it meant back then, 5,000 years ago, as opposed to what it means today. And so that's why we have so much chaos and people turning to drugs and alcoholism and all the violence and wars and all the stuff that the humans are involved in today. Everywhere you look is cage fighting and football and fights and heavyweight championships, and everything is fighting and drinking and alcoholism and drug addiction and wars and military. The whole human race is being sucked into a destiny that they have no idea where they've come from, where they are now, and how this stuff is working, and where they're getting ready to go. And I've known this for years. I've known all about it. I've been talking to all the experts in military and astronauts and scientists and Jesuit historians and Jesuit theologians, and I know what's going on. I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything, but at least I have had the opportunity to use my own mind all of my life, and I've spent all my time in my life researching and studying the world I live in, where it came from, what it means, and where we're going. And this is why the more I see this stuff, and I've seen it for 60 years, I am so incredibly moved, emotionally moved by what I see coming. I see that children on the streets have no idea in the world how they got here, what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to live. You know, I see mothers with 6 or 8 kids and they're pregnant and their husband's gone, and so they're on television saying, well, who's going to feed my babies? Who's going to feed my babies? I got 14 kids here and I've got 6 husbands and they're all gone, and so who's going to feed my babies? Well, we'll feed them. We'll take care of them. Well, then what you're doing is opening up the world to the whole idea of socialism, Marxist-Leninist communism, where the state will take care of everything. They'll feed you and take care of you. They were doing just fine, but nobody seems to know the history of the World Communist Party back in the 30s when it was founded in the Soviet Union. Nobody seems to realize that Russia grew to be a mighty military power under the world communist regime. And under communism, it became known as the Soviet Empire, the Soviet communism. But nobody seems to realize, where did the Soviets get the money to feed their troops and to feed their people and to pay their military? They get paychecks every week. Where did they get the money? Well, they got the money from the Federal Reserve. With the Federal Reserve used to send the plates that they used to print money. I've read articles many years ago that you would never read today, but in the research magazines and books many years ago explained and showed how the Federal Reserve sent the plates. They made duplicate plates of the 5s and 10s and 20s and $100 bills and wrapped those plates up and sent them to the Soviet Union, so that the Communist Party in the Soviet Union could run off, and they would and the paper, the particular paper it was on, had to be produced and then sent to Europe, and from Europe it would go to Germany, and from Germany it would go into the Soviet Union, the paper, and so that the Soviet Union could print the money to feed their children, buy the guns, and feed their armies, and feed everybody, and make sure everybody gets paid, so that the Soviet Union could grow and become a great enemy. How? Off of the Federal Reserve plates that was sent to the communists by our great American heroes who run the Federal Reserve and financed Adolf Hitler the same way. They financed the Communist Party the same way, and now they're financing the destruction of the United States of America. Why? Because they can just print the money as much as you want. We'll just print this stuff. We'll put three ships, 3 different ships, morning, noon, and night, and just run off the paper money and send it everywhere, send it to Russia, so they'll have plenty of money to buy guns and start a war. We'll send a lot of it to South Africa, to Nelson Mandela, so he can foment revolutions and pay the blacks to kill whites. So we'll just finance all this chaos and lies and deception and wars. The Federal Reserve is financing the world's demise, and we are so ignorant and ill-informed, we don't read, so we just don't know. But one day we're going to wake up and find out somebody has been planning your demise for a long time, and this is what I'm trying to do with my research website, is to show you all these documents and tell you things about the world you live in you've never heard before. So you wonder how we got in the mess we got? It's because there is somebody who's put us into this mess. Well, and we don't even begin to know who financed the Soviet Union. It was our own country.
Well, you know what the other problem is, though, Jordan, and I got to be honest here. I always hate it when I only hear about the overlords, so to speak, that do this to us, right? Because we bear responsibility as well. Now, why do I say that? Because we feed into this system by insisting that tribalism is the important thing. Now,
yes.
Why do I say that? Okay, because here's the quick, bullet point logic. What happens is they tell you have to believe in a certain whatever, red tie, blue tie, right? GOP, liberal, whatever. They tell you that's your team. And then they present you with the tribe leader of said team, right? Then they tell you that somehow God has chosen them, or they are here as an instrument of God.
Yeah.
And, this theme reoccurs, and it's all about the tribalism. It doesn't even matter the details that are there with the leader or with the God. You don't even necessarily have to know which God it is, and that's the confusion that we're working through during this series. But here's the problem. The grand leader, too. Somebody who's ascended to power. Why? He was chosen. Why was he chosen? Well, he was chosen by all of you. Not really. What has happened, though, is that regardless of what they put up, people join a team. You see? They just simply put out the team and say, join us. Become part of the people that wear the red hats. Become part of the people that are wearing the blue shirts. Become part of the people that are out there with this kind of sign. And people fall right into line, behaving much like the chattel that they're described as.
Yep.
This is our responsibility, to not always go with the crowd. Now look, when you see a crowd of people running away from something loud, it's good to follow a crowd, because that's usually a good idea. But, when you see them running straight into their own demise ignorantly, not even fully understanding the agendas of the individuals who have been placed in front of them, the system that is working, that they believe is going to work for them because of grand leader or because of the person they selected to office somehow, this is the problem. You're not going to be saved by somebody you saw on TV. You got it?
Right.
So that's the bottom line with all of this, as far as I'm concerned. It's not about, well, gee, you guys are challenging my beliefs in God. I'm not challenging your belief. You can believe anything you want, but look at the reality of what that actually is. Not that facade, not the soffit over top of the windows, but look inside and figure out where it really came from, what it actually means, what these rituals actually stand for, what they're actually telling you when they're telling you fall into line. This is the problem. Anyway,
play ball.
Stand on your line.
There's a team here in this company, and you're not on the team.
You got it.
And I said, you bet your ass I'm not on the team, son. Don't try and BS me. I'm not on your team. I can read and write and think before I came here. I was already well aware of commercialism and how the world works and where the religions have come from and who owns the banks and how the whole world works. That's all I've done for all my life, is study the dark side of the human race and what we're doing. That's why I want people to understand, to go on my website, the Jordan Maxwell Show, and always add the word show, because that's my only website, is Jordan Maxwell Show, and you will see a button right there, a little banner that says Research Society website. Click on it and join, because you're going to see I've got a massive website of all the documents, audios, and audio lectures, massive research papers on all the dark stuff going on the belly of civilization, all the real tricks and lies and deception. And that's what I've been doing all my life. And the reason why I do it is because I think the human family needs to wake up and educate itself as to what's really going on here. And that's why I want to give them an opportunity of a place to start. You want to find out what the world's really like? Yeah, go on my website and join my research society. And then also get the 2 videos that are on my home page on the right-hand side, on the home page of my 2 new videos. You get those and watch those, and you can download it and watch it immediately. Watch my 2 videos, and you will be astounded at what you never saw before, how this world is put together and how it works, and that was never told you. You've never been told these things I'm trying to show you. I'm not against anything. I do believe in God, but I don't want people being misled any longer.
Well,
so that's what I do.
Exactly. In that way, Jordan, you're kind of against one thing, and that is ignorance. That is the one thing that I would prefer. Listen, again, as I said, I personally have no objection to someone believing anything they wish, so long as they're not harming others with that belief. And that's what the problem is, right? Because people that are misled and misdirected can very easily wind up harming people, even when they don't necessarily mean to, because they're misinformed.
That's right.
And it's just that simple. Now, believe it or not, we've run through 2 hours here with Jordan. So episode 11 is done, basically. I'm going to give Jordan the final word, but of course, I urge you guys go over to JordanMaxwellShow.com. That is the only website that is Jordan Maxwell's. I go over there. I am in the Research Society. I go into that section. You want to study up more on what we've talked about for the most part during these 2 hours and these 11 episodes. There is a tab in there under religion. And you can just begin there with the images and some of the interesting exhibits that are there to explain not only what we've gone over, but a lot more. Okay?
Yep.
So that's in the Research Society, but it all starts at JordanMaxwellShow.com. You got to put all that together because that is the only website that is actually Jordan Maxwell's. Okay. Jordan, what would you like to say kind of in closing tonight?
Well, in closing, I want people to know I'm not anti-religious. I'm not anti-God. I'm not anti-anything. I'm 78 years old, and I've been a teacher all of my life, and I'm fascinated with wisdom, and I want people to know how the world works and what's going on to help them to grow and educate themselves. And so, but go on my website, The Jordan Maxwell Show, and you'll see 2 videos on the right-hand side of the screen. Click on them and watch them. You can download and watch them now. You will find stuff in those 2 videos you have never heard of before, that is startling stuff. Right. And then go join my Research Society, because there's a lot there and there's a lot more coming.
Well,
so
absolutely.
I appreciate you letting me talk about these things, because I want people to know I'm not anti anything. I just want to educate my fellow man before I leave this world.
Absolutely. And look, like I said, the one thing that is paramount here, I do think you are anti-ignorance, though, Jordan. I gotta say that to you.
I think so.
I think you're anti-ignorance, but outside of that, no, you're not anti-anything. And here's the key to it all. The human family is worth saving, is worth educating, is worth the grace to earn some wisdom. And that's why this is being done. Jordan Maxwell has been with me for the past 2 hours, and of course, this is the 11th episode in the series on religion. I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Jordan, for joining us, and thank all of you guys who participated, added in a question, whatever else. Do appreciate you. Remember this, guys. This is the Ocelli Effect. I'm merely Ocelli. All of you are the effect. Have a good night.